Friends, there can be little doubt that we are in strange and unprecedented times this year. And in those strange times, our response can sometimes be fear. I find that it's a very common response when we run up against something that we just don't know. There's no roadmap for how to go forward here. We can't even meet together as a whole school for chapel. What is going on? This is not what we thought it was going to be like. But I want to take this moment to introduce you to our school theme verse and our school theme for the current year. Whether you're joining us here at school or whether you're doing your schoolwork at home, I think this is important. Our school theme for the year is "Do not fear," and our verse is from Isaiah 43. This is God speaking to his people, and he says this at the start of Isaiah 43, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior." I just like to say one thing about this passage here, and it goes kind of in the middle part. There's lots to say, and perhaps we'll get a chance to talk more about this later on this year. But that line, "When you pass through the waters," God says, "I will be with you." Now at first, we look at that and that paints a really neat picture, because we look at this and we say, yeah, the way that life is right now, it kind of feels like I'm in these turbulent, messy waters, and it's good to know that God is with his people in those times. And I think that's fine. But I also think when I look at this in Isaiah, that Isaiah, God, through Isaiah, is referring to a very specific time in the history of God's people. Maybe you remember the story. Maybe you've heard it before. A long time ago, God's people were in slavery in Egypt. They were in bondage. They were oppressed. They were hurting. And they cried out to God, and God rescued them by working through someone named Moses. And maybe you heard the story of the 10 plagues, how God finally freed his people. But on their way to freedom, the people were going through the desert, and Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, had an army together, and he was chasing the people, probably to kill some of them, and maybe to bring the rest of them back into slavery if he could. So the people were there, they were trapped. Pharaoh's army was on one side, and the other side was this big body of water, the Red Sea. And they had no way out. At least it didn't seem like they had a way out. So they cried out to God, and God provided a way out for them in the most amazing way possible. The wind blew all that night, and it blew a dry path right through the sea. And the people of God, with God's presence with them, could walk right through that channel to safety. And when Pharaoh and his army tried to do that, they couldn't do that. God did not hold the waters back for them. God was protecting his people from the harm that was all around them. Now, we're not being chased by an army, okay? And we don't have the sea in front of us, but maybe it feels a little bit like something's chasing you sometimes. Maybe it feels a little bit like there's no way forward. But God can make a way, and God is at work. And God, in this passage and throughout his word, promises that he will be with his people. God can be with you. And when God is with you, I find that drives out fear. We don't have to be afraid when God is with us. And we know that God is with his people. So I hope these words this morning bring some comfort to you. We miss our chapel time together. We miss the singing together. We miss the smiling faces as the students file into the chapel. But for now, this is the best we can do. And I hope that these words bring comfort to you. You do not need to fear. When you walk through the waters, God will be with you.